The recording has begun. Welcome to the Trial of Lorpin Part 2, which is the 31st session that we've done in this particular set of adventures. We're gonna hold off on doing a retelling because we're basically just kind of picking up. So there's not going to be an experience handed out today. I will make that up for you if you guys pull off this trial. I may hand out an actual renown for this. We'll see how well you do, but at the very least, I will give out experience when this is all done. So, do we all recall what was happening? There are documents to view in case you need a refresher.
Well, I do know we're at our lunch break, and we might want to figure out what we could do within that hour or so that would be valuable.
Sounds good. Let's. Does anyone need a refresher on where we are within the court case?
That might help to have a previously on.
Yeah, okay. So, previously on, the trial began. The first assertion that was given was given by the defense that the arresting officer was paid to target Lorpin. And while no actual evidence of this was brought forth, the circumstantial evidence was sufficient, and the persuasiveness of the arguments given was sufficient that it was accepted by the magistrates as true for the purposes of this trial. And there may be a separate investigation into that later, but for the purposes of this trial, it's going to be treated as a true fact. Prosecution then tried to present that Lorpin had stolen treasure from the Salty Swine. This was demonstrated to not be the case. And while Araxi was ready to claim the treasure, and did eventually claim the treasure, again, the persuasive arguments were such that the magistrates were turning, and the prosecution decided to drop that one. Since it was their assertion, they just dropped the assertion and withdrew it, rather than lose face in having it ruled against. Which brought us to Lorpin as a citizen of Celebre, which the prosecution was later going to try to argue that Lorpin is not a citizen of Celebre, but so the defense got ahead of that. The fishing guild showed up in force, and it was ruled that indeed Lorpin is a citizen and a member in good standing of the Celebran Fishing Guild. But what's coming up next is some of the defense's most important arguments, that Lorpin acted in the best interest of Celebre, because you guys were planning to reveal that he did in fact commit the murders, but you're basically trying to say that the murders were not just justified, but that they were in the best interest of the nation. And that is an important argument to make. Before that argument could come up, however, it's lunchtime. It's probably about 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's taking early lunch. The courts get started very early in the day. And so everyone is out for their little 1 hour lunch break. Lorpin is having food in the defense's little private chamber so that he can speak with counsel privately. And everyone else is about. So let's just go through one by one, and everybody can decide what they want to do. I'm not going to call on anyone. I'm just going to let you guys go first, but I will get to everybody in turn. Who wants to do something?
Assuming then that we're basically carrying on with the characters we did last session.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Your other characters are off at school, and basically who's here is the 6 characters that you each brought with you, and I think actually 7 because Vivian, you brought 2 characters, correct?
I did.
Okay, so they're both here. Also here is Lorpin, Gorham, who's Lorpin's defense attorney, and the former sheriff of Oak Brine. You've also got the most of the fishing guild, has shown up. All of the major captains from the training programs. So you've got who you got? You've got Catarin Ironhook is here. Melastia is here, and Harbor Master Radican is here as well. Not to be confused with Radico, who is a different character.
So since we're on lunch break, was our plan to research the opposition a little bit during this time, or did we just already do that? And
I think somebody did that last session, but we can rehash that if you need to. The main thing I think is that was it Chrysalzar was, I believe, researching the prosecution, but found there's no known biases in this prosecution. She is an old veteran who takes her job very seriously. And the investigating detective that found out about this appears to be a kind of like shut-in conspiracy theorist kind of guy that like pieces things together. It's like a Sherlock Holmes kind of dude. Very few social skills, but excellent at deduction. He generally does not come out of his investigative offices much, but for the trial, it may be necessary for him to talk about stuff if it comes down to it. Of course, if you guys prove that it was Lorpin by video, then they don't need him to deduce that it was Lorpin. So, yeah.
Yeah. I do have is if we want to, since we're already going to like have the family ties, or whatever, if we want to find the old owner of the guild, whatever, and have her testify that, but like try to convince her to testify to save a man from the guild from death, or whatever, the one that was made all the deals, or force her to come in to be to admit to giving. To attempting to give goods to a Celebran enemy.
Right, so what you're suggesting is to hunt down the heads of the Nantar Trade and Agriculture Consortium. Basically, bring them in to try and force them to testify to having ordered the orchestrated, really, the unsanctioned weapons for hostage trade that didn't go through because Lorpin blew up the ship.
Also, the unsanctioned murder of Celebran civilians, or
the mercenaries that they had hired, they ended up killing. That's correct.
So I believe that would definitely help cement our case of like Lorpin being a good guy in this whole thing.
That would cement our case. I wonder how good we will be at getting somebody to basically say, hey, come and self-incriminate yourself as an enemy of the state.
Reggie says killing mercenaries is real bad. Like, the Mordicans didn't even do that. And they burned the city.
Yeah. Well, if we had convinced them to admit to it, then it's better than someone coming to get them. They might get a lesser punishment if they openly admit it, versus like them being dragged out.
Well, we would need to get the prosecution to agree to that and have some sort of like immunity agreement or like lesser sentence or something like that. It's possible, but I don't know if we have enough time.
Well, of course. Well, Distance said that we can during the trial we can like do stuff like, because we're not all, some of us are not bound to be staying at the trial.
Oh yeah, good point.
That is correct. You guys are not required to be here. You're here in support of Lorpin. But those of you that have testimony that you're scheduled to give, you've already given in the form of a written deposition. So you don't have to be there in person to present it.
But if we are there in person, we can help Gore by giving Gore pips or even dice.
Correct.
So I think that I'm going to keep Wampy and Araxi at the trial because I think that they both have information that could be crucial to Gorham's defense arguments. But if somebody wants to go there, it may be under false pretenses, elicit a confession or something.
Oh, under false pretenses, you're saying? You're saying lying.
Somewhere, some ghost is convinced that they have a daughter, so we've already done that before.
Gorham did tell you that lying is permissible when you're getting a confession.
Yes. And Kyle is follower of Kyle, who loves lying.
So we don't even need them to testify. We just need to record their testimony and get them to admit to it.
Well, we need to have them we'd have to have some way of recording them to say it, because just having a written confession.
The recording device that you have been using is currently evidence and not available to you.
But if one exists, another could exist.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't make it, you bought it. I think you paid somebody to make it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
As long as
imagine now that they've made it, they've patented it, they're putting that for sale.
They have plans for production. It has only been a couple days. 3 days, actually. It's been 3 days, yeah.
Yeah, we could like have the recording device slipped into one of our kids' backpacks or whatever, if we have backpacks, and just like get them to talk or whatever, and they don't know they're being recorded.
Is there any authority in Celebre that if they hear something, it's as good as getting a recording? Does that exist?
In the context of a trial like this, potentially a member of the Crimson Guard. It really depends on who you're presenting the information to, right? Like, a member of the Thieves Guild hearing something is as good as it truly happening to the Thieves Guild, but the Crimson Guard's not going to take their word for it because they're thieves. The entire job of the magistrates is to try and work out with their own human intellect what is and isn't true based on what people are presenting.
Well, if we don't have a way to record, we can either bring the apprentices or whatever, the Crimson Guard, or we can go convince the Crimson Guard to accompany us. Might not be great pulling that off, though.
And you'd still have to convince them to, under those circumstances, tell you what it is you want them to put on the record, which is, as Reggie pointed out, incredibly detrimental to them. Worse than a lot of other crimes. Like, murder in this city is really top-tier bad. That's why Lorpin is in so much trouble right now.
Killing mercenaries is worse than murder. The mercenaries are the standing army, pretty much.
They're the foundation of the city being independent and functional, yeah.
Yep.
So if we can scrounge up the money for another ball, I think doing the pocket trick, wherever, and convincing them to admit to it, and then applying that crystal ball as evidence. It's probably our best bet.
I mean, we can't take the crystal ball out of evidence. We need that crystal ball to be in evidence because the trial's going to continue while this happens.
Yeah, that's why I said buy a second one.
So buying a second one, I mean, I guess the question is how long did it take them to make the first one? Because we kind of glossed over that. Wampy just went to the Plant Thaumaturgy Guild, got it made, and then finished off the day by diving. We didn't actually set like a time frame. That was all in one scene.
I'm going to go ahead and just kind of say that it took a couple hours. A few hours, actually. It was not like... Because you were diving by daylight and you started in the morning. So somewhere between sunrise and noon is the amount of time it took.
Yes. Also might take a little. It might take a little bit less now since they have sort of probably a blueprint of it now.
Potentially. They might even have some already made. Somebody would have to take the time to go there and check.
I did also have the very bad idea, but very funny idea of taking a Crimson Guard member, putting them in a box, and then rolling the box in the room.
Is one of the children considered part of the Crimson Guard if they're studying with them?
So, as junior members, you're in training, but think of it from the perspective of the magistrates. Obviously, they, would assume that you probably are eager and want to tell the truth, but you are also young and easily tricked. So it really depends. It depends on how well you present it. It's not a mechanical machine that's going to be judging the truth of the matter. It's going to be 3 people with their own opinions and preconceptions.
The worst case scenario is we just wherever the person is, we just have the door slightly ajar and the Crimson Guard in the other room listening in.
Something to think about too is the timing of it. So you can see here when the different assertions are coming up. So figure it does take a while for each assertion, but like when do you want to be able to present that evidence? Which assertion do you want to link that to?
The only one that makes sense is the one that's coming right up. So we're on a tight time frame for that.
Yep.
Now, if we could add an assertion to the stack to delay it, that might work, but I don't know what we could add.
Doesn't that delay the whole trial?
Potentially.
It delays the whole trial, but it's just an assertion. We aren't requesting for a stay or something.
If you present an assertion that the prosecution hasn't already read and prepared for, then the prosecution may, at their discretion, request a day to consider this new assertion and prepare their response to it. And they're allowed to do that, just as the defense is allowed to do that if the prosecution throws in something. Trials are not meant to be won by surprises. They're meant to be won by truth and what is right.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
And under what circumstances would the defense even add an assertion? Because all of them seem to be against Lorpin. Although, never mind. I guess some of them aren't.
The defense are all good.
Except for the one about him being in prison, but that's there because the prosecution is trying some shenanigans. And Gorham is aware of those shenanigans and has his own trick up his sleeve.
So we do a really long string and cans, and we have them speak into the cans and the other cans at the courtroom. Some little rascal shit.
Let's have the defense add an assertion that Lorpin was discriminated against for being Anu. Make this a civil rights case.
I think that's what the first thing was about. Was that he was that they, or it's already been determined that it was.
Yeah, that is a statement of fact.
Okay. It was targeted based on race.
I mean, I think the best way we could do about this is to just drag out this assertion as long as possible. It's a really big assertion. It's going to have a lot of evidence, a lot of testimony. But you'll have to move fast, essentially. Somebody should probably run to the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild
Yeah.
while this happens.
Or we could guilt them into what here's because I just remember the thing I said before. We could guilt them into like things because it'll be like, if you do not confess to this thing, we will bring back the ghost of the hostage to tell them what they know about the whole situation. Would you rather have the hostage talk about this, or do you want to keep her memory and living and you admit to what you did? That's really shady and awful, but
I think it's a dangerous gambit because that might count as evidence, and then we're adding evidence, and then they'll delay the trial if they want. Like we've already seen, testimony of a ghost is entered evidence.
Something to consider as well is the testimony of the hostage may not be very favorable to your case, as the hostage is going to testify to all the pain they suffered because Lorpin sabotaged the ship. And they were a Celebran citizen. Though technically all of the horrors that they endured were taking place outside of Celebran territory, as the Anu Islands are not considered part of Celebre.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure a way of getting the guild leader to talk.
Cool. Something else that any of you can do, if you want to, is you can just, while everyone's eating, go around making perception checks on the different people that are here to see if you can pick up on anything. That could be your action for the lunch. Is anyone going to be leaving right now to go do anything?
I think
Go ahead.
Zara is going to go to the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild to get them working on another recording device, just in case it becomes useful.
Okay. We're going to have the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild make a greed check here. Guess how many dice they have in being greedy?
Shit.
Oh my god.
They have not begun work on a new one yet, so they would have to have you. They'd have to start today, and they'd have one ready for you in a few hours.
Okay. Yeah, Zara is going to proceed with that, even though it might take a little bit of time. That's, just in case it comes in handy.
Cool. And Zara wouldn't know that that's the case until she got there anyway. So Zara is going and getting that started. Cool. Is Zara going to pay them in advance for it, or is it payment on delivery?
Definitely going to have to be payment on delivery. Zara is broke.
Okay. That will be negotiated then when they get finished. So that's Zara's action. Who else is doing something during lunch?
Wallopy would like to actually go out really quickly and collect the newspapers that Trollpy went through and bring them to the trial itself.
Very good. All right.
Oh, I know. I just figured out. Khalil is gonna go shopping, and he's gonna try to shop up some some ingredients with it, along with his pharmacist thing, to make some kind of drug to make someone more suggestive, like be able to or open.
Truth serum? Or just like a charm person kind of suggestion?
Yeah, sort of like somewhere like between truth serum and like yeah.
Okay, you can go ahead and make a... Do you have alchemy?
I do not have alchemy, but I have pharmacist as a talent.
Oh, okay. So you can use medicine instead of crafting to make potions. That's cool. Yeah, okay. And the effect that you want this to have is...
For them to be more open to telling the truth when it comes to basically sort of truth serum, I guess. It's the best way to say it.
Okay. So I'm going to rule that is a rank 3 ability. So you're going to need 6 successes to make a single-use potion, and then you got to figure out a way to convince them to drink it. You're also going to need a substantial amount of time to brew this potion. It will not be done by lunch. Probably going to take you a few hours. Three hours, actually. It will take you 3 hours to brew that. Cool. Still have... I think... okay, so yeah, Wompy's going to get that. So we've got 4 more characters that have an opportunity to do stuff if they want to.
If they're breaking for lunch, what are the magistrates doing?
So the magistrates do have a private dining hall that they are going to go to lunch in. It's not as posh as it sounds. It's basically like a backstage kind of like green room, essentially. It's kind of small, kind of cramped, but it keeps them separate from everyone else so that they cannot be unduly influenced during lunch.
Can I drop some eaves?
Indeed. The eaves can be dropped.
I have a stealth of 1. Let's see how it goes. I just want to hear what they're talking about and get a general sense of what they're feeling.
So, agility plus stealth is what's going to prevent you from getting caught while you're doing it, but it will be...
What happens if I get caught?
You get caught. You don't know. Probably get in trouble.
How bad? Because it's going to be 2 dice. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're well, interesting. I mean, you're a kid, so they can't do too much to you.
nice. All right.
But it might not look great for the case, but yeah, it really depends. But that's a separate roll from rolling to actually hear something, which will be perception and investigation.
All right. Let's see if I can sneak by them. I do not.
Okay. So you're going to get caught, but before you do, let's find out what you overhear. This would be Leica, right?
Yeah.
Leica has a perception of 2.
Do I need to roll my investigation roll?
Yes. Perception
Okay.
plus investigation. Yeah. Oh, Leica's got good investigation. Okay. Right one for the job. So the first thing that you hear is them berating the backup magistrate for being drunk the previous night, for being hungover today, and they're kind of grilling him on what's happened so far to make sure he's been paying attention. Then they sit down, they start eating, and they are having a little bit of a discussion over what they've seen so far. You do find them particularly interested that the citizenship of Lorpin came into question, and they're glad it was answered because that's going to make things a lot easier. As citizens, citizens must obey the law. That's an important part of citizenship. If Lorpin was a non-citizen, then there could be reasonable exceptions made to treat him as an enemy agent, or to have him basically sent back with a diplomatic note to the country of origin, stuff like that. But as a citizen, it makes things a little more straightforward for them. He's of Celebre, he's subject to Celebran law. They're kind of interested in this next assertion. They don't know what all the arguments are going to be, but they do know what the assertion is. And they're sort of intrigued by that. And then you get sort of a definitely a sense that the mercenary captain guy, who's been deferring to the other two, is starting to feel like maybe he should stick up for himself and kind of make his own decisions. And they're encouraging that. They're actually telling him, like, yeah, definitely, you shouldn't just copy what we do, because we're deciding for our chairs, not for your chair. So you need to make sure that you're looking at what your responsibilities are for that chair, not just looking at what we do. And he's nodding like, okay, he's still a little stressed out by the whole affair. The backup guy is sobering up. They've got him a nice little omelet, and he's kind of coming to, but he is very much bored with the proceedings. And then you get caught. So, all right, let's see. The arresting officer here. What are you going to tell the person who catches you? It's like, hey, you're not supposed to be here.
Okay, my goal is to act starstruck. And be like, is this the chamber where the magistrates are eating?
Nice. Make a performance roll. Add empathy.
Persuasion.
Persuasion's fine, yeah.
Thank God. I'm still working on the performance part. Like, it's going to need some more time with the bard to get to that. I don't think any of the schools I go to teach performance, so. All right, let me see. Persuasion and empathy?
Definitely.
Does my nose ring help? I don't know. Does my outfit help?
I think it would. This is a
my outfit
social
would
thing,
help.
Yeah.
Thank God. That's not a bad roll.
Not a bad roll. Okay. Yeah, so this meathead is convinced that you're just starstruck, and So it starts giving you a little bit of a tour. That eventually gets you back to the luncheon area.
Yeah, I'm gonna act basically like very hyped about civic duty and shit like that. So
yeah, this guy is definitely all about that. All right, let's see. So that leaves Araxi.
I have an idea for Araxi. That is actually to sit and help Gora practice his opening argument for the next bit, because this is kind of the crucial bit. You know, our case kind of hangs on this. And there's no evidence when Gora starts the opening argument. No other way to give any assistance, so...
Cool.
I don't know what role that is for Araxi, necessarily.
Leadership. That is 100% leadership.
Leadership. Okay. I'm going to say that my outfit also applies. I don't think I have anything else. I would love to be able to add my athletic potential. That's why I can't think of a single way it applies.
Not a particularly athletic pursuit, the legal profession. Okay, nice. Let me record those for his next argument.
I assume that was focus plus leadership. That seemed correct.
Yeah, that's fine. Running through the cue cards, that's a very focused kind of thing. Which leads us, I believe, with Kofric and Reggie. Did either of you want to do anything during the lunch break?
I don't know if we need to worry about this, but the judge of the people, once they find that they're connected in the next segment of the trial, they might try and recuse themselves. And I don't know if we want that to happen or if we want to try and attempt to influence that somehow, although I don't know how easy that might be given that they're in their private chambers, but maybe that's something to consider.
You don't really have access to them now, but if you wanted to try to do something in preparation for that, let me know what you want to do. And you don't have to do anything complicated. You could just sit down, eat your lunch, and make a perception check on the other people in the cafeteria, just to see what's up, see if you pick out anything just from observation.
Yeah, I don't have any. I've been freaking reading Talents this entire time, trying to find something. And even my perception isn't good, but maybe that's all I can do at the moment.
What was the context in which the mercenaries were killed, basically, or sent to death, or executed, or whatever? What was the specifics of that context?
So firstly, the mercenaries were selected using a selection process that is known for expendables. So it wasn't really understood at the time, the context, but you guys did identify when doing record keeping that no two mercenaries were hired from the same mercenary company. These were a group of extras that were brought in so that there would be no collusion between them, so that if they needed to scrub the mission for deniability, that was a doable thing. That was, of course, under the presumption that this would all be going down on the Anu Islands. But when the boat exploded, you guys found out from a little bit of necromancy that the moment of death for at least one, but it looks like maybe more than one of the mercenaries that were on there was the rescue team that was supposed to be, the harbor rescue team, supposed to be coming down to rescue them, was instead stabbing them. And the goods from the bottom of the harbor were never recovered. Officially.
So we don't have evidence of this, really, specifically.
Unfortunately, no. You had already submitted the recording crystal ball when that particular act of necromancy was performed. So that was more investigative, as you guys were trying to figure out what happened to the weapons, the magic weapons that were sunk to the bottom of the sea. And instead of finding that out, you guys found out that the mercenaries, the reason there were no survivors was because the rescue team was killing the mercenaries.
Okay, well, so that evidence isn't there.
The evidence is there. It's at Wappy's testimony, and Wappy is here to do that testimony.
Okay, well, I want to drum up support for that testimony, because it's like hearsay, kind of, right? I mean, it's just basically Wampy's testimony, right?
Wampy talked to a ghost, and...
Yeah. So I'm just going to go talk to my mercenary friends. I'm going to try and find as many of the companies that lost a person as I can, and just let them know that there's testimony coming up about your people, and tell them what happened.
Excellent. I would like you to roll something so that we can see how many of them you get in. This isn't exactly persuasion, but I guess it could be.
I'm trying to persuade them to get riled up about it.
Sure, okay. I was going to say this is propriety, because it is the right thing to do for them to come and hear this out. But if persuasion works better for you, then that's good.
My goal is mostly to get them. I don't have friends, Romans, countrymen, but if I did, I'd be using that. My goal is to get them to be here. Not just to like inform them of this is the right thing to do, but get them to come in and just cause a ruckus if they're. I mean, this should relatively upset them, right? Not only is it illegal, but a lot of them lost people from their group, right? That's a big deal.
Yes. Now, up until this
mercenaries die, but
up until this moment, they believed that they lost people because of the attack, not the rescue team.
Yes, this is different. So this is a different thing, right?
Yeah, this would be completely new information to them. Whether or not they believe it is largely going to be a persuasion roll by Wampy during the testimony, but you can definitely seed them towards a particular disposition.
So maybe I'm donating my dice to Wampy then.
Potentially. I would like to see how many of them show up, though. That would be a good thing, because then I'll know how many points to sway the audience's position, as that greatly impacts the chair of the people's answers to things. Okay. All right. We're going to get 5 of them added in here. Excellent. And we will also consider that... for now, I'm going to consider that pips towards the performance, but we'll see how that all pans out. You are, I presume, you're not just saying come to this. You're giving them some information about what to expect, right? You want to lean them towards a particular point of view on this? Reggie?
What's that?
You're not just informing them. You are making some effort to lean them towards a particular point of view, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm getting them to. My goal is to make them upset that I mean, basically, they can. So my current view is that a lot of them are probably generally upset that they lost people, but people die as mercenaries, and something happened. The ship blew up, and they died. Right. So it's one of those things where you're like, that sucks, but we're mercenaries. Is what happened. I'm trying to give them the view that it was intentional, and that what they've been told in terms led to believe in terms of how it was intentional was not true. Right. Because like even if they did die, like they're probably kind of not happy with Lorpin because he kind of blew up the ship, right? But like he wasn't there to assassinate the mercenaries.
Right.
He was there as far as they're concerned, he was another mercenary on a different operation, and they just got caught up in it. Whereas if the rescue team was going down there and stabbing them, that's an entirely different ballgame, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to basically convince them of. I'm just giving them all the evidence that we have. If we have any documentation or something, I'll just hand it to them and say, "I'd like you to be there. You guys have been really good customers and sports, and I think this is really relevant to you."
Very good. All right. 5 of them will be attending, and Wami's going to get some bonuses to that. I think those are actually going to become bonus dice because you're presenting it in that light. Okay, which leaves just one character left.
Yeah, I think I'm done looking through stuff. I can't find anything. I pretty much only have medicine to work with, so nothing else is high enough to do anything, and I can't do anything with medicine. Okay, so just, I guess, listening around and seeing what's going on, so it's just pure perception, and I don't have much
Right,
trouble.
you can add investigation. Yeah.
This is not the right character to be right here right now. I mean, do you need help with what did you do with the medicine, with your true serum?
I haven't actually made it yet, but Distance said I need 6 successes, and I currently have a maximum of 5 successes I can get currently.
So yeah, if Koffer wants to go and help with that medicine check, then you might be able to pool your resources together and get that up to 6.
Okay, yeah, we could do that. That's probably a much better use of my stuff.
What does Koffer have for potion making, herbalism, that sort of stuff? Does Koffer know alchemy?
I don't know alchemy.
Does Koffer have pharmacist?
I mean, I could poke into pharmacist.
Pharmacist is pretty specific to medicinal.
Yeah. Pharmacist basically lets you roll medicine instead of crafting for alchemy. That's the point of it.
Yeah, I mean, let's try and make an exploding potion or something like that, in which case pharmacist wouldn't really help.
But in this case, you're trying to make a sort of mental state altering potion, which is within the realm, I think, of pharmacy.
Yeah.
There are like ingredient-based talents, right?
Because I currently can spend a medicine to automatically gain 4 successes, and then I'm rolling 1 dice with 6 pips. So I'll basically I'm currently at 5 successes.
I guess herbalist is kind of a materials related thing.
Yeah, but it's not so much procuring it as harvesting it.
There is quality ingredients. That's under trade. When acquiring materials through trade, you may pay 1 trade to increase the quality of any acquired materials by 1.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of trade.
Yeah, prerequisite is 4 trade. At 2 trade, there's master barter, where you can spend your trade on resource tests. Sorry, spend 1 trade to add your trade as a bonus dice when adding or when buying goods and services on a resource test. It seems like all that stuff is in kind of the trade area.
Yeah, I was just curious if there's something for ingredients, but it doesn't seem like there is.
So if you don't have any alchemical skill, you can't contribute successes, but you could contribute dice by being useful to the process. So you could roll, and whatever you get in successes, give those to Tice and as extra dice to roll to try and get those 6 successes. Or you can just eat your cafeteria fish and leafy green sandwich and check people out. Whatever you want to do.
I mean, this. I don't know. The goal of this character hasn't done anything with medicine so far. I don't know exactly what he's going to end up doing. So it's not far fetched for him to be heading toward doing any sort of alchemical pharmacist related stuff. So I don't have the talent, but it doesn't mean I can't work toward it and help with the crafting.
If you have
Cool.
a character point, you could just spend it and use it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Is I can assist with the crafting
Yeah.
that way.
If you spend a character point to either have alchemy temporarily or the what is it called, the other one, then you could contribute successes with your roll. We'll just combine the successes you get with the successes that Tice gets and see if it reaches a 6. While you're thinking about that and making those rolls, Kristen, will you be coming right back after you place the order? Because you don't technically need to be there while they make it. Or do you want to stay there and supervise till it's done?
I think I will stay there, just that way, kind of like pressuring them a little bit with my presence, and then also I'd rather be there right away when it's ready so that I can run it back.
Okay.
All right, I'm just gonna burn a character and head toward pharmacist. I think that makes more sense because alchemy is kind of ambiguous and very like substantial. Like that's what your character is doing. It feels like with alchemy.
Alchemy is definitely a datal kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I was eventually probably gonna push Confrig's datal towards something else. Okay, so we're rolling to craft toward this. Is that medicine and
medicine and focus.
Yeah, and would since they're burning a character point, would they be able to use would they have to burn a medicine to get the successes, or like because there's like either you can roll your dice or you can burn a medicine to gain successes in medicine.
Is it an either or can you do both?
I think you get let me see. It says when crafting medicinals, you may use your medicine instead of crafting RC, and you may pay one medicine to get an additional bonus equal to your medicine successes to the attempt.
That to me reads like both.
Yeah, I think.
Oh wait, so I can still roll my medicine. I could pay one to get 4 successes and then roll 4 more dice.
Well, I think you roll first, and then you can pay to add the successes onto it.
Okay, because that's why I was saying only had 5 successes. Because if I can pay one to gain 4 successes.
Yeah, having the talent allows you to roll it. Like allows you to make the roll, but then also you can pay to get a bonus.
Okay.
So this may be overzealous if we both do it, but that's not a bad thing.
Yes, you have a medicine of 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so you would roll medicine plus focus, which is how many dice? 5?
5 dice. Yes.
And then you would get if you then tax your medicine, you get 4 additional successes. Yeah, so you just need to get 2 successes from those 5 dice.
Yes, and I'm using my pharmaceutical kit, which gives me 6 pips.
So you are very likely to succeed with this.
Oh, whoops, wrong one. And I guess I get 9 successes altogether.
9 successes. All right. Troy, I'm going to rule that if you can add another 3 to that to get double the successes needed, that you can have the time and have this ready in like an hour and a half. Normally, there's a talent you have to take for that, but I think it's more exciting this way.
Okay, so roll my medicine because I took the talent.
Plus
I don't think I
focus.
have anything to contribute.
Yeah, plus focus, yeah.
What is your medicine?
5.
Oh, holy crap. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need talents to manufacture stuff. It's just medicine. Talents just make certain things easier.
Well, I'm taking the talent, or I'm poking at the talent so that I can make the roll at all. That's the main reason. Because otherwise, like, medicine wouldn't be used for this, right?
Right. Otherwise, you'd be using it to, like, patch up an injured person or diagnose somebody's illness. But right now, you're trying to make a truth serum.
But I mean, medicine's valid in helping to do that. It's not
Yes.
a potion making thing, so you don't need the talent necessarily to use medicine to assist in making a medicinal potion, right?
Correct. So if you're assisting, then you'd be adding dice for dice to roll. But if you do it this way, you're adding successes because you're actually part of the team that's doing the thing.
What you're missing is crafting, basically. But like Tice is missing crafting as well. He's just skipping it with a talent.
All right, there you go. So you guys are going to have this ready in about an hour and a half. Probably you'll have it ready a little bit before the new crystal ball. All right, and that's everybody, which brings us back to the trial. So everybody packs up their lunches, comes back inside, and the trial continues. Gorham stands up and gets ready to present his arguments that Lorpin acted in the best interest of Celebre. Gorham is taking the sort of role with his opening statements of, instead of spilling all the beans right away, Gorham is explaining what he's about to do in a more simple term. He says, I'm about to present you with evidence that there was more going on than just a simple attack. This was a situation that our unfortunate client Lorpin found himself in, where Lorpin had to make a snap decision in the best interest of the citizens of Celebre, and Lorpin did to the best of his ability what he thought was right in the moment, given what he saw. I'm going to present to you what he saw, and allow you to imagine in your minds what it is that was going through Lorpin's mind as he saw the situation he was in and had to act upon it. This tactic is specifically designed to mess with the prosecution because they don't know precisely what they're arguing against yet. And so we're going to do his roll.
3 pips for Araxi.
Yes. All right, off to a good start. All right, and the prosecution gets up, and the prosecution takes a very, very different angle. The prosecution says, this is a trivial delay tactic by the defense. It doesn't matter if Lorpin acted in the best interest of Celebre, or if Lorpin believed Lorpin acted in the best interest of Celebre. It has already been established that Lorpin is a citizen of Celebre, and thus, regardless of intention or even effective action, Lorpin is bound by the laws of Celebre. And so this should be thrown out. I am calling for a nullification of this. Those of you who researched, which I believe was Chryslisar and Minas, I guess they weren't here. Well, all right, we're about to find out. The process for a nullification, it requires a unanimous vote by all three to be accepted. If even one of the magistrates finds merit in the hearing out this assertion, then it has to be heard. Prosecution only gets one shot at this, and so they're taking their shot. Let's see. However, it appears that the judge of the state is not impressed by this. The other two magistrates are sort of considering it. You can see them contemplating that this might technically be true, that this is sort of like a repetition of the previous assertion. But the gentleman on the high chair, he stands up and says, "No. Why you do things is the only thing that matters when determining if what you did is right. This needs to be heard." And he sits back down, and the prosecution says, "Very well. If the magistrates will it to be so, then we shall hear arguments." The other two kind of nod. They're impressed with him standing up for himself for once. Yeah, those pips came in very clutch. You can thank Wampy for not having that entire section of your argument completely nullified.
Well, Araxi. But yeah.
I'm sorry, Araxi. That's right. Okay, and so now it's time to present evidence. The defense is presented the assertions. The defense presents evidence first. Gorham kind of looks over towards you kids, not sure which one he wants to present. He had kind of a plan, but he's been rattled by this attempt to completely throw out the entire assertion. So, in order to shake him out of that sort of mental shock, someone should suggest which piece of evidence that he should present.
I think Wappy is just going to stand up, walk over to Gorm, whisper. Wappy and the Triplet Detective Agency has spent 3 days just poring over this. You got this? We can explain everything. Wappy will explain everything.
All right, he says, I call as witness Wampy of the White Owl Orphanage, formerly of Oakbrine. Is Wampy in any of the guilds?
Wappy is technically a member of the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild.
Okay.
It's on the record there, but doesn't show up to work.
Hey, you're on the record. So he presents as Wampy is a member in good standing of the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild, and also represents their brothers as a detective agency.
Yeah.
All right, and Wampy, you have the floor.
All right. So Wappy is, if you remember in the prior session, Wappy went around to make sure that Wappy gained the respect and authority of an expert witness by talking to the magistrates, talking with the prosecution even, and goes up there and takes the crystal ball as well. Has the newspapers not ready to refer to them yet, but is basically just going to display and explain the process of the crystal ball. How Wappy goes, Wappy is a druid and uses druidic magic in assistance with my investigations, including underwater. That frog you see there on the recording, that's me. Guiding one of my assistants around the wreck. And it's going to explain and show how, first off, that the damage came from inside, not from cannons as was previously ascertained, and then show the necklace being taken, and then fast forward and explain how we had this necklace taken to divination, if I'm not mistaken.
The chair of the commerce stands up and says, "If I may make a point of order," and the prosecuting justicar says, "Of course," and it says, "so that we need not discuss this as a point of fact or not. Can the witness demonstrate their ability to become a frog so that that can be simply taken as fact?"
Wallopy will do so.
Okay.
I have that as a talent.
Yeah, awesome.
Wild-shaped frog.
Wild-shaped frog, and you wild-shaped back. All right. Thank you. We will take that as truth. And he sits back down.
And so, Wallopy will then go to explain how Wallopy then had assistants take this to the take this necklace that was on the first mate to the deed of divination at the Celebrin Academy, where we found, and then Wallopy will essentially just play the tape and say, "This is what Lorpin saw at the time."
The tape plays backwards.
It does play backwards.
So, what are you going to do to help them understand what they're seeing, since they're watching it in reverse?
Right. Ooh, how does Wallopy explain this? Wallopy will just explain that the mechanics of using an artifact to look back in time requires that it is played in reverse. However, what Wallopy can do is Wallopy can fast forward and then rewind on the crystal ball, so that you may watch it in full.
Oh, cool. Are you're gonna try to tamper with the crystal ball to make it play in forward?
Oh, does it not play? It only plays one direction?
It only plays one direction at the moment.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, I am going to do that.
Awesome. This crystal ball was made using arcane magics, so an arcane specialist will have an easier time of it, but
Can a
Wallopy
solipsist?
can solipsism it. It's just going to be a little trickier.
All right.
Someone with arcane abilities only needs one success. You need two.
All right. Well, Wallopy is going to do that. Can I? Wallopy does not accept limits. That I think this is a limit. Wallopy says no. So that allows me to add an aptitude and a skill to it, right?
Scholarship would be the most apt, although any crafting skill could also be added to it.
Like labor? That's the one crafting I have, unfortunately.
I would say either crafting or engineering. Labor's not really applicable. Scholarship would make more sense than labor.
Right. Can I argue that this is an investigation? It is also Wallopy's crystal ball. Wallopy is experienced with this.
If you're going to do it as investigation, I definitely want your aptitude to be cunning.
Yeah. Do I get pips from the crystal ball?
Yes.
Because we did assign equality.
It is a well-made piece of technology, and it turns out it has these features buried in it. You guys just never really explored the interface. Excellently done. So you get it to play forward. And so now, for the first time, you actually get to see, in forward motion, Lorpin hopping down the steps, kind of from above, looking confused. Seems to hear something, goes and hides. First mate comes up from a different place. Waits till the first mate's back is turned, and then stabs him. Cuts off his finger, rigs the fireball wand to detonate, and hops away in an apparent terror. There's that whole moment too, and you can pause at that moment where he's just looking in horror at the wall of weaponry, which, being projected this way as a sort of illusion in full size, is much more impactful than merely describing it. This is like very dramatic for this. So, in your persuasion, you're going to include the quality of this recording device as dice, not pips.
Oh my god. You're not ready for how many dice I'm about to throw down.
I am certain that the prosecution is not ready for that amount of dice.
Yeah. And Wappy is going to explain. This is what Lorpin saw. You can see with the horror, and pausing at like the horror, leaving it linger, and then go, this is how Lorpin reacted to seeing a ship known for carrying food, carrying an arsenal. Now you may ask, why was there an arsenal on this ship? And then Wappy is going to
You actually get interrupted there as one of the magistrates stands up again and says, I'm not entirely sure what we're looking at. You just referred to an arsenal, and I see all these sort of weapons. And at this point, the chair of the nation stands up and says, I can help you with that. And the old man kind of hobbles around to the stairs to come down onto the floor, and he starts pointing at the weapons. And he knows their histories. He knows like what their magical enchantments do, what battles they were used in, and he starts going down the line describing the sheer amount of death and destruction that this arsenal could have caused in the wrong hands, and may yet still cause if it's still out there. But you guys haven't gotten to that part yet. He goes and sort of gets back up. The other magistrates are looking on in just awe and disbelief. They're like, this seems like something more important to investigate. Where are these weapons? Jessica says, we have an investigation department on it. I assure you, our only concern here today is the guilt or innocence of Lorpin.
Wappy will just let them do that. You know, they are the expert on this subject. Wappy is the expert on this magic thing. Is Wappy actually expert? Question mark, but is
anyway,
presenting themselves at.
The magistrate gets back up on his chair. One of the other magistrates leans over and says, technically you're not supposed to do that. And he just says, you guys didn't know what it was. I had to explain it to you.
But yeah. And then Wappy will roll the tape to a conversation that Nest had with the first mate, because you said we record that as well. And Wappy's not going to linger too long on this. Wappy will just say, this is a conversation had with the first mate between one of my assistants, Nest or Fire, and everybody's Wappy's assistant right now. And the ghost of the first mate acquired through use of necromancy by the deed of necromancy. And as you may see, and Wappy lets the tape play and the pauses at points during the recording, the first mate is very evasive, being very clear that they would not share under any circumstances who funded that operation. Which seems weird, because if this was for Celebran interests, there should be no reason that has to be secret 10 years later.
All three magistrates are nodding. It's like, very suspicious, very interesting. There's also some discussion of like, we have been neglecting the usefulness of this arcane university if they can talk to spirits about murder crimes. That's a resource we need to look into. How have we
Trumpy,
gone
Wumpy, and Francis are already going to begin the paperwork to begin their little.
Yeah,
It-
that's what you two were doing today, is submitting paperwork.
Yeah, we're originating a business.
Yeah. You're patenting it. Can we say that they're patenting it as this trial is going on?
Patenting necromancy will be very difficult, as it is an old profession.
Patenting the use of it in this or the application of it.
The government will probably deny the patent, but you can give it a shot, because the government's going to want to use it too. You've opened up a realm of information gathering that they just had neglected in their legal system for a long time.
So, at this point, while Pete, because this next part was not recorded, is going to put the ball away and say, seeing the usefulness of this, my sibling Francis and Trumpy and myself, who else was there? I think it was Troy's character is there with us.
Crystalsar was there, but yeah.
All right, and our assistant Chris Lazar,
Who is a Crimson Guard trainee.
a trainee in the Crimson Guard. I'm sorry, I don't remember Chris Lazar's last name, but Whoppy does say it. Went out and tracked down the grave of one of the mercenaries. And Whoppy looks to the crowd of mercenaries I assume have filed in, thanks to Reggie.
Yes.
Looks at, tracked down one of the mercenaries who perished in the explosion. And we both were able to view unfortunately this crystal ball was already evident, so it was not able to be recorded, but we were able to view the circumstances of their death and also talk to them. When they died, they were not killed by the explosion. They were a survivor. They were killed not by anybody on the ship, but by the apparent rescue diver that was to rescue them. Again, you might ask, if this was official Celeber business, why?
The chair of the people raises her hand and says, are you meaning to say that the Fishing Guild, who I see represented in the audience here today, and that's why, as the chair of the people, I need to ask you this, are the Fishing Guild's rescue team implicated in this?
No. Because while people place the newspapers, and first off apply for them to be in evidence, because they are not in evidence as of right now.
The prosecution says, I do not object to these being entered into evidence. They are newspapers.
Yeah. And essentially run down what Trompy figured out about how this connection, all these mercenaries being hired from all these individual guilds, is connected to the kidnapping of some guild members.
All right.
There.
Do
And
you,
this is
do you
what-
mention him by name?
Whoppy looks to Gorham for a nod, yes or no, when Whoppy gets to the point of name.
Gorham nods. There's
Big-
essentially there's no way around it in
Yeah.
Gorham's view. You could find a way to sort of dodge around the issue, but it's very likely that she's going to figure it out. I was getting ready to roll her her investigation dice on that.
Whoppy is just going to mention it.
Okay.
At this point.
Alrighty. So, Lady
Do you want me
Alpenny,
to make my persuasion roll now that I've thrown all the evidence out?
you can actually you can do that if you wish. You're going to be making that against, I mean, to all of them essentially. But Lady Alpenny, upon finding out her family is involved in this, immediately rises and requests to be considered for recusal. Says this relates to my family, and It is no longer appropriate that I sit in judgment on this matter. And, well, yeah. Well, go ahead and roll your dice. There's going to be
Alright.
a lot of dice hitting here.
So I have the dice for my persuasion plus what? Cutting? Or
Yeah, you're basically presenting facts. You're not really playing on anybody's hearts and feelings here.
plus the 5 from Reggie, right?
That's right.
Plus the 6 from the crystal ball.
That's right.
And I have the 3 pips from the thing that I did before this trial. And I think this is also the time that I want to. Now, this is going to need a ruling because we actually haven't set what this talent or this lineage does. But I wanted Wappy to take the virtue of modesty and have it applied to stating things in a way where there is a hidden implication that they are actually an expert in the subject.
Interesting. All right.
Understating your things, but being so talented at it that you are perceived as an expert.
I like that. I
if
like
I
that
thought-
a lot. We'll have to come up with something a little more mechanical, I think, for it to be
My
a lineage.
thought for it would be that would work similar to the Anu's like climbing pips, where they get pips on any time that they are doing a persuasion or explanation.
Okay. And
That was my
anytime they're doing a persuasion where they're downplaying their own status or abilities. Yeah.
And I think that's what Wappy is doing here.
All right. I like it. And so, I mean, I would have it be an automatic full success. How many dice? Because I told you there'd be something special for the reveal of your new lineage.
All right.
How many dice were you going to roll?
15.
Okay, so we're going to call that 15 successes. Good grief. All right. Okay, give me a second to do some math on these magistrates. All right. That is a deeply compelling thing. All of the magistrates are kind of hit by that. But because it does relate to Lady Alpany's family, she has asked to be recused. Recusal requires a majority vote between the other 2 remaining magistrates and the prosecuting justicar. So if 2 of that group vote to recuse, she is recused. If only 1 votes to recuse, she is not recused. Everybody gets a chance to say something about it in sort of the order of the person who called for the recusal gets to speak last. And then everybody else around the room sort of goes in an order of prosecution, defense, other magistrates. So that's sort of the order that things are going to go in. It's usually not a magistrate calling for recusal. It's usually either the prosecution or defense, so then they would speak last. But yeah, here's what it comes down to. The prosecution believes it to be the right thing to do, and seems like they're going to vote yes on it. She gives a small speech about if it's related to your family, then you're correct. It would be inappropriate for you to judge on it, as your judgment would be clouded by emotion potentially. And it's unwise for us to make you go through that. Please be recused. Gorham gets to get up and say something. And at this point, Gorham is kind of considering his options. Gorham kind of sidebars over to everybody and is like, I think we should not have her recused. I mean, she's
Yeah.
been level-headed this whole time, right?
I think we should talk about her expertise and how her position is not given was given to her specifically so she could rule in cases like this, because she has no real connection to her family's business.
All right. So Gorham gets up and he does his best. Let's find out what he does.
You got this, Gorm.
It's not a terrible speech. He kind of is like, as the defense, we don't find your involvement to be material to this. It may have been your family, but it wasn't you. You are clearly not, part of your family's business. You're doing something in the legal profession, and within that profession, we absolutely trust your judgment in this. And he does try, and this may have been a bad call by him, but he does kind of say, it's like, if you think that you need to be recused, that who are we to say? But I will tell you that we don't think that it's necessary, and we absolutely trust your judgment and expertise. And if you feel comfortable staying, we would appreciate having you here so that we know for certain that justice will be fair and within the system of the courts. He lays a little bit of his experience as a country sheriff down. As as a country sheriff, I often had to get involved in situations where I had a personal stake, simply because I was the only person there at the time. I realize you do have a backup, but I do trust your judgment. And then the magistrates get a say. And the magistrate of the people she gets to speak last because she presented it. So the magistrate of commerce goes next. He stands up and he says, I agree with the defense. I think that you have presented yourself perfectly well, and I understand the legal theories that you're calling upon for this, but traditionally it would be the defense that would make that call, and if they haven't called for it, then I feel like it's not necessarily your place to decide that. She gives him a bit of a look. They're definitely going to have an argument about it later, in a more scholarly setting, but for the time being, he makes his case known. He says, my vote is to stick with it. And that's how I intend to vote, because I think that you're right. And so the seat of the nation stands up and is really thinking about this. He's like, am I saying what I'm voting for right now, or am I just giving arguments? And both of the other chairs tell me, you're just giving arguments. You can say you're voting away just like we did, but you don't actually have to vote that way after you've heard all the arguments. He goes, all right. I've been in a lot of battles, and I can tell you right now that a cool head means more than anything. And I don't know a single soldier who can keep a cool head when their family's at threat. Now, I don't think your family's at threat, but I feel like you are probably going to find this much harder to deal with than you think. Says, I value your cool head, and I will be sad to not have your counsel here to help me through this, but the way I see it, it's a good idea to swap for a general that doesn't have a child or relative captured at the enemy camp sort of thing going on. He has to frame it in terms of warfare for him to really understand it, but that's how he presents it, and that's his position. And then the backup stands up. And you can tell right away that he really doesn't want her recused because he doesn't want to do anything. He wants to sit in a chair and have this just be a sunny day where he sips tea. But this guy is, first and foremost, a salesman. And so he actually steps down into the center of the room, not standing at his chair. And he starts giving a sales pitch. He's basically selling her the way he would sell a finely crafted piece of workmanship at the market. It's both creepy and clearly self-serving, but also simultaneously incredibly flattering to her. Yeah, he does pretty well. And then, at the sort of finale, she gets the last word. And she says, thank you all for your kind words. I definitely appreciate your confidence in me. But I don't think you understand what our family went through. When my cousin's daughter was sent home as just a head in a box. I don't think you have any idea how much emotional trauma we all went through to bury a body that's probably not even hers just to have something in the ground under her name. I try to keep a level head because I have a great deal of respect for this institution. But if you force me to choose between family and justice, I will rain fire on this courtroom. And she sits down. Justicar votes recuse. It's unanimous, actually. All three of them vote to recuse. And she packs up her stuff and leaves, and quite sadly, the other gentleman comes in. To let you guys know, like, how close you guys were to convincing them, you weren't really close. You probably would have needed to have a lot more successes and even a few more dice rolling to really overcome her fiery speech. I guess I can roll for it, but it's... Yeah, you didn't overcome that. So, the trial will move on. Now, the good thing is that the impact of Wampy's presentation is still present. Everyone is still very concerned about this, and the dramatic exit of Alpenny has now meant that it's being taken very seriously that there was something going on with her family. And so now the questions become, how was this good for the city? And so the prosecution is going to step in and try to present some counter-arguments. First, she's going to say, I think we can, at this point, see quite plainly that Lorpin was both the murderer directly of the first mate and detonator of the ship. And while Lorpin may not be the murderer of the other members at sea, and that is a separate issue we'll deal with, those two instances are still present here. But the question, the assertion we're trying to claim, is that this was in the best interest of Celebre. And as far as I can tell, it appears that these weapons were leaving the city, not coming to it. Her message is not well received. Good grief. She is definitely stumbling. Do you guys want to even bother putting out counter arguments? Bear in mind, any counter argument you put out, she gets to say something about it again. Or do you just want to leave it as it is?
Isn't it they say don't interrupt your enemies while they're making a mistake?
That is a very wise old saying, yeah. So on unanimous vote, all three magistrates vote that that yes, indeed, Lorpin had good reason to be doing what he was doing, and that it was in the interest of Celebre that this weapons shipment be stopped. And that assertion is taken as fact. And that may be, largely speaking, the end of it. We're going to kind of speed run through the next few assertions. That one was sort of the key, and Wampy knocked that shit out of the goddamn park right there. The dramatic exit might have actually been a big deal if you hadn't hit that so hard, but yeah. With it accepted that Lorpin acted in the best interest of Celebre, they're moving on to Lorpin received no enrichment from sinking of the Salty Swine. This one goes through pretty smoothly as the demonstration of the whole reason that you guys demonstrated that the stolen treasure wasn't Lorpin's just kind of like automatically wins that assertion. There is some discussion of blackmail payments that Lorpin made, but it's quickly ruled that could easily have been treasure from the numerous campaigns of privateering that Lorpin and Lowendal engaged in against Corlanthi traders on behalf of Celebre. Which brings us to Lorpin must be imprisoned. And here, Gorham is feeling confident. Gorham, given the option to present that Lorpin must be imprisoned, stands up and presents it, says, Lorpin must be imprisoned, and I present this as a binary issue. I would like it to be ruled conclusively as true or false. The prosecution is a little surprised at this. The prosecution intentionally left prisoning out so that the defense would be forced to argue for it, just as a stopgap to prevent Lorpin from being executed. It was a dirty trick, but the mounting of evidence behind it has now sort of led to Lorpin being in a pretty good situation. And it's around this time, while he is giving speeches about how Lorpin is a free spirit that must be free on the waves and should never be imprisoned, and that death would be better than to be locked behind bars for a man made of salt and waves. Around that time, Teams B and C finish up with their projects. You guys have a completed new crystal ball recording device and a completed potion of truth-telling. What are you guys going to do with it?
So, first of all, Zara does not have the money to actually pay for this, so I should have thought about that beforehand. Maybe Zara should have gone back to get money from folks, but maybe she'll try and see if they'll take an IOU or something like that. Like, oh, can you invoice me? Send an invoice to
As a deeply capitalist institution, they will not.
We were supposed to finish early, right? Like compared to the crystal ball, we were supposed
Correct.
to finish a little.
Yes. The potion team finished before the crystal ball team did.
So
by about half an hour.
As a applied thaumaturgy can I go over there and try to haggle that down?
100%.
So that's what Kafrik will do. He'll head over and try to help with that, knowing that it probably was going to take a while anyway.
All right. So Kafrik and Khalil, you guys, with your finished potion, make your way over to the Applied Thaumaturgy Guild. You meet up with Leica as you guys together watch the finishing of the contraption. Did you bring money?
Yeah, I mean, I have money also, and
Okay, cool.
I'm hoping I can sneak some kind of discount for being applied thaumaturgy, but if I can, I can.
You get
Okay.
I think a 1 pip discount is what you get.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah, it's a pip, right? All right, yeah. So go ahead and make your resources plus money roll. I don't remember how many successes we needed last time.
It is quality 6 if you can back solve it from that.
Okay, I think then we probably needed 4 successes. I wouldn't have done 6. You guys, it was a required item for quest completion. So yeah, probably 4. Oh, that's right. It was 4 because you were letting them keep the patent. That's what it was.
I was letting them keep the patent.
Yeah, so it's 6. That's what it is. Yeah. But you can roll your resources to try and burn them down, and if you've got any trade skills, you could apply that. Like trade talents.
Because I don't think it was something for quest completion, because it's kind of something I came up with on the fly.
I've had these toys in my back pocket ready to put them out into the world for a while, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, I did just want a camera or something. I want to basically invent the camera.
But I didn't want it to be like a camera. I wanted these things to have like fantasy uniqueness to them, right? Like, I didn't want this world to just end up with a magic camera that is just an iPhone, but it's made of runes instead of plastic. I wanted to really function differently. And I thought like a crystal ball with sort of omnidirectional scanning was much more different from the reality we live in, while still carrying those functions. Anyway, yeah.
Zara does have some persuasive abilities. Is there any way she might be able to join in to like persuade for a lower price, possibly, or?
So there are a couple talents that are useful for this. So let's see. Master Barter. You may spend 1 trade to add your trade as bonus dice when buying goods or services, or on relevant resource tests.
Yeah, I probably won't be able to go that route because Zara is saving up for some other talents. So yeah, but mainly she was just looking to potentially just contribute to the persuasion.
You can contribute your resource. You can roll your resources.
Okay.
They don't need a lot of persuasion. They definitely want to sell it. They're in the business of selling things to make money. The question is how much money.
Yeah, I was just gonna potentially have her like argue some sort of discount like, because of how we're planning on using it effectively, like, appeal to their like sense of, pride in being a member of Celebre or something like that.
Being used as Star Trial is free advertisement.
Ooh,
Yeah, I was gonna say advertisement is your persuasion.
yeah.
Free, like it's not free advertising. It's advertising with an object, but
I'll let you add your successes as pips to the actual buy roll.
Cool. I'm rolling resources though, right?
No, if you're gonna do your persuasion thing instead, you can do your persuasion thing. But then you need to make good on it and make a big deal about this being applied thaumaturgy technology at the trial. Make sure the
Yeah.
audience gets a good view of it.
Paid product placement. Cool. So like persuasion, cunning.
Yeah, that'll work. That's very advertising-y. Alrighty, add 2 more pips on top of the 1 pip for your employee discount. And however much cash you need to throw in there to get it.
all right. Let's see how much cash I'm burning so far.
You can roll coins one at a time if you want. Definitely see where your starting point is first, though, with your resource roll.
Oh, like an actual resource roll?
Yep.
Okay, so this is just resources, pipless, and that'll be toward money.
Well, you would add your pips to that, and then you'd have remaining pips that would then proceed onward.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. So like we can burn 2 pips on that then?
2 of your pips makes that 2 successes, and you've got 1 pip remaining. This is
That was my
the
bad.
usefulness of the pips remaining little tag at the end there.
Yeah, that was my bad. Okay, cool. So 1 pip this time, and then money. So that's 2. So we'll start at 4.
With 1 pip. Oh, ow. Ow.
Yeah, that was painful. Okay, cool. Well, that's still 3.
That's 3. You're halfway there.
I have 3 coins, and or three dice plus 1 of the last one of the first kind of money. So you can add a pip to that, or I can do that. So we got
2 more, so you only need 1.
and there's 1 pip left.
No, there shouldn't be any pips left. Tice, did you?
No, I have what's the first kind of money?
Oh, pocket money.
Yeah, I have 1 pocket money.
Oh, okay.
Right, and it didn't apply, but Are we do like a one die at a time? Like, okay, I'll do one, I guess, 1 die at a time, and I have a few tries.
Yeah, we just need a 5 or higher.
Or a 9, that's fine.
That'll do. All right. Well, record your expenditures on your sheets, and you have your new recording device. And so now, as the discussion about Lorpin being uncageable free spirit goes on, what are you guys doing with your newly acquired gadget?
I think we're still going to plan on going to meet the person on the receipts. What's her name? The leader of that guild, or did we want to do something else?
I think that makes sense.
I feel like we just got all the pieces for it. So
We got our truth serum.
So what's coming up on the docket here, after the whole imprisoned stuff, is going to be Lorpin has committed destruction of Sleeper property. That's going to be a hard one to knock down. Even if you have a good reason for it, he still did it. And the assertion isn't whether or not it was justified, simply whether or not it happened. Video evidence is definitely going to get those next two things confirmed. So then it's really going to come down to, has Lorpin waived his right to exist by his actions? That's where all of these assertions are going to come together. The Lorpin is not Celebrin one is going to be like abandoned because it was demonstrated he is Celebrin. And the Lorpin has no right to exist really hinges on him having waived his right to exist through his actions. The reason the Lorpin has no right to exist here's a separate thing, is that even if it was found that he did not waive his right to exist, if they could have proven he was not Celebrin, they could have still made an argument that as a foreign national he should be executed. But all of that's kind of fallen apart with the fishing guild having shown up. So really it hinges on whether or not in the course of doing what he believed was right, did Lorpin commit a sufficient violation of the king's laws to waive his right to grant himself permission to exist in Celebre.
So, we need Lorpin to truthfully tell that he believed in right that he was doing everything.
I don't think so. I think that just leaning on the evidence that at hand is probably best.
I know you guys were originally hoping to hunt down that family, but what you have right now is a very versatile tool. You have Truth Serum and a recording device. You could potentially get valuable information from anyone if you felt it was useful to when the trial gets to that point, which is going to be in, it looks like, about an hour and a half. If within the next hour and a half you guys can, not real time, game time, you guys can get a confession that is of use to whether or not Lorpin has waived his right to exist through his actions, that may be very, very useful. Otherwise, it may just come down to dice rolls.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who else, like besides that person, who else would be good for using the Truth Serum on. If anyone has any kind of like.
So I believe we were in agreement that Lorpin should not testify, in part because it's very likely that Lorpin did not do it for Celebre.
And Lorpin is not required to testify. Like most legal systems throughout the world, at least most civilized ones, they have figured out that forced testimonies are often false. So there's really no point You either prove it through other means or you don't.
Reggie says he doesn't have to prove that he did it for Celebre. You just have to prove that what he did was in the best interest of Celebre.
That's actually already been demonstrated. That's been accepted as true.
Yeah, Reggie's
But
a
if
shrill.
Lorpin goes up there and says that he did it for the Adu, that's acting as an agent of a foreign state.
Basically, wouldn't all of the assertions from Lorpin has raised his right to exist down not be valid if we're able to disprove the two prior prosecution assertions, basically that he committed destruction of property and committed murder?
Correct. Unfortunately, you've presented as video evidence him doing both.
Now,
Yeah.
the question, I guess, is it committing murder if it's in defense of Celebre?
You might be able to argue that.
Reggie says, aren't the Anu territories part of Celebre now?
They are not.
Raxi says no, very quickly.
Firelithan has been quite clear that they're a separate entity. Why? Only the king knows.
Well, I think the angle around murder is not murder if it's committed during a war. Not that there's a war here right now, but if we can somehow prove that this was some sort of military...
Are attacks on the guilds not, technically an act of war against Celebre? That's a genuine out-of-character question.
I mean, Celebre attacked the mining cooperative. That was a guild.
But did they outlaw the mining cooperative to attack them? I wasn't around for that. They had to have some legal justification.
It's a little fuzzy because the mining cooperative had been disbanded and was gone, and then there was time travel shenanigans, and they were back for no reason. So it's very unclear as to exactly the order of events there, unfortunately.
One could argue that even with the testimony of the dead spirit, that even if for some reason every single mercenary had survived the blast, that the quote unquote rescue crew would have murdered them all regardlessly.
Those are all very interesting arguments. Yeah.
So technically, if we still get her to admit to basically hire those people to their deaths, that Orphan is clear.
I would say that as Gorham finishes his presentation on Lorpin's freedom, a recess is called for a brief break, so that you guys can all go outside and discuss your strategies as you move into the next section. Are those of you who've completed the device and the serum, are you coming back to meet up and discuss things before you take action?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So Lorpin must be imprisoned is denied. It is treated as a fact because of Gorham's... I should roll for it, actually. Let me just see how Gorham does.
Imagine he should have a bunch of pips from the prior evidence.
Gorham convinces them that, that Lorpin is too free of a spirit to ever be imprisoned. The prosecution is actually going to suffer some some composure damage from this, because it is not an expected tactic. They expected him to do exactly the opposite, and they're on a back foot right now. All right, so you guys have your opportunity here to sort of discuss and plan. Given that it's taken us 2 hours to get to this point, I think this might be a 3-parter. But don't you worry, I do intend to award a renown for this. So
I do have one thing that could wrap it up in 2 parts.
Okay.
Can Wappy go over to the prosecutor and basically offer Wappy's assistance in fully uncovering this conspiracy if they just withdraw the assertions and just point to the general direction of the trial?
So the prosecutor does acknowledge you. Actually has because you're halfling, the prosecutor is not entirely sure your precise age. All halflings are small. You're just smaller than normal, and so there's a little bit of confusion as to whether you're actually a child or not for a moment. But she basically says, we're definitely going to investigate everything you presented, and thank you for presenting it. We have a lot to look at. It turns out that during the lunch break, we caught one of the arresting officers trying to dispose of physical evidence against them. And so they're going to be going on their own little trial, but we have a lot of investigations to do about the specifics of this weapons deal. It's not proven whether or not the weapons deal was illegal. If the owners of the weapons consented to the sale or the trade, then that would not be a crime. But the killing of the mercenaries is serious. It does point to a broader conspiracy afoot, and 15-year-old conspiracies can be hard to unravel, but we have our best investigators on it.
I would like Wappy to really lean heavily on the credibility of the evidence that Wappy gathered without official help, and be like, look, you know where this trial's going. This trial's pointless. Wappy and the Triplet Detective Agency will put our best minds there if you free us from having to sit through the rest of this trial.
Go ahead and make a persuasion roll.
Alright. Do I get any pips from this?
From what source?
Really, I want to use the pips from the evidence I've already presented, showing my expertise on the matter, and being like, hey, we can help you out. This trial's done.
You may choose one piece of evidence and apply its pips.
I will use the crystal balls.
Okay.
Reggie can give an assist.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So overhearing this, Reggie says, I mean, you said it's not clear that the sale of the weapons were illegal if the owner intended to sell them. But the legality of a sale is entirely the jurisdiction of the king. And I'm pretty sure the king wouldn't agree to a sale of weapons to a foreign enemy.
Pretty clearly, yeah. I agree with that. That's a valid point.
So, but, just the sale of the weapons could not have been legal.
Because it hasn't been ruled on in a court yet, I cannot make that assertion. We would need to assert that before a panel of 3 magistrates for it to be ruled on. It is, after all, an accusation against a specific family. It's not a general ruling of, is this the law or not? It's, did this family break the law? So we would have to present that assertion in court. And today, they're not the ones on trial. Today, Lorpin is the one on trial. Now, I have no problem with you kids helping us out after this is all done. But if that help is contingent upon a specific outcome of the trial, that is bribery of a public official.
Not looking to bribe, just looking to clarify.
Yeah.
If the legality of a sale can't be decided, which is critical to the guilt or innocence in the trial that we're currently at, can't be decided until after this trial is decided, that seems like a problem.
I encourage you to have your defense attorney present that as an assertion, and we can try to rule on it.
I will make Wappy's persuasion roll. Wappy's just like, look, this trial's over. You know it's over. I know it's over. We all know it's over.
Reggie shrugs as they can see the future, so I mean.
She just eats your persuasion into her composure and continues.
Well, I knew she already took composure.
She did. Yeah, she's taken a couple composure hits today. So she says, this is. You're obviously very skilled. You're very talented. This trial does need to finish. And then we will move on to the next. This has waited 15 years. It's not in a rush. But a dangerous person who might blow up other ships out of fear of things he doesn't know or understand, that's not something we want to have around. It's just, you guys saw the video, right? Like, what evidence did he have that the first mate couldn't be reasoned with? Couldn't be talked into turning the ship around? He gave the first mate no opportunity to talk about what was happening, to discuss things. And, I mean, arguably, in maritime law, and that may become a big deal here, what was Orphan even doing on the ship? Was Orphan given permission to board?
Already been accepted. He acted in the best interest.
It has, yes. It's a little downtrodden with that. But she says, I'm going to proceed, and if the magistrates determine that Lorpin has the right to continue as he is, then that is their determination. I am here to serve my role in this, just as they are here to serve theirs.
Reggie says, I understand, but also understand that if Lorpin is dangerous, which, I mean, I've known him for a long time. He doesn't seem to be dangerous, at least anymore. But if he is dangerous, then you're right. Putting someone away that potentially could blow up other ships. But no one really thinks he's an arsonist or just a saboteur. This was a directed attack. And so the consequence, though, of putting him away might be that the next time a guild decides to sell weapons to a foreign power that we're at war with, like Apthis or Corlant, it's just it'll be this will be an abject lesson to all of the loyal Celebran mercenary groups and citizens that they shouldn't act on that.
She says, that is an excellent argument, and you should present that to the magistrates in the trial, which we will be returning to in 15 minutes. So I can't stress this enough. It's not my decision whether Lorpin is guilty or innocent. My job is to claim he's guilty, just as Gorham's job is to claim he's innocent, and it's the magistrate's job to decide what's true. Although, if you want to have Reggie make a persuasion check, you can add it to Wampy's, and we'll see what it comes out to. Holy crap! What?
It's not your job, Reggie says, it's not your job to decide whether he's guilty or innocent, but you have to live with the consequences of what you create. A large number of people are currently burning from cinder because of a foreign power. I'd hate to see citizens step back if people start shipping, the guilds decide it's profitable to ship weapons to them. and walks away.
Odin's freaking beard. Okay, well, the dice have spoken. Good grief. And this is why you bring social characters to these situations. All right. You have skipped a dramatic scene for sure. All right. Yeah. When the trial resumes, the prosecution states, having reviewed the evidence and observed the accepted facts of this matter, we are dropping the case. This is, yeah, she has nowhere left to put that amount of tax. I just want to tell you that. That's bonkers. I mean, she'd have to like put it into her hit points, which doesn't make sense. So,
I mean, you could argue that she has that she faints from the stress or something like that.
She walks over, slams her face into the wall, and says, "Good to go. Let's do it."
She's already taxed out from all the shit you guys did in the trial and her just absolutely terrible rolls. Her stats, by the way, are way better than Gorham's. She's just been rolling like shit for some reason. But okay, yeah. So she calls it off. I'm just gonna let you guys know. Lowendow sighs with relief. Says, "Phew, I'm so glad I didn't have to bring this out." He has in his pocket, and has had this whole time, the letter from Corlanth authorizing him as a privateer against Celebre, which he could have used to demonstrate that he had sent Lorpin on a mission as a legal attack against an outgoing vessel. It would have meant that he would be imprisoned as a traitor, but Lorpin would have gone free. But he didn't have to reveal that. And so that is not revealed to the courts, and yeah, and everybody goes home happy. Holy shit,
Yeah,
you guys!
we have a crystal ball and a truth serum for another day.
You get a crystal ball and truth serum. Let me tell you guys, hang on to that because the ride gets wild from here. We are adding to the. Let me find it here. We're adding to the selection of potential adventures. Let me find it. The Adventures Opportunity list has some new things added. So, Lorpin's trial, done.
As everybody's leaving, we walk around boasting of the usefulness of a crystal ball, as we were told to do. For Leica's sake. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, because the crystal ball evidence was definitely...
Yeah, it didn't have to be this crystal ball that we just got. That was...
We now can split up and record stuff.
So, we're adding to this the investigation of the Nantar trade conglomerate. Nantar Trade and Agricultural, yeah. They're something you guys can investigate now because you know that some shady shit went down with them a long time ago. And also one more thing. When you guys get back to the orphanage... Oh, and by the way, multiple mercenary guilds and the entirety of the fishing guild all witnessed you guys put on that display. A renown for all of your characters. We'll resolve that at the beginning of next session. But just think about what things you might want to get with that over the next week. But when you return to the orphanage, there is a letter waiting for Wampy.
Oh.
The letter is from the moon. It's from the Inuit High Priestess, or Druidess. and she has written you and says, "Dearest Swampy, it's so wonderful to have received all of your letters. I cannot help but notice that amongst your letters you had mentioned among your many companions one named Henri. And the name Henri recently came up in conversation with our Lord the Moon King himself, who, when we were discussing logistics for sending druids out abroad in the world to observe this ongoing conflict, in relation to the Northern Forest, the Moon King said, don't worry about that, Henri is taking care of it. And we have no idea what he meant. If you could look into this for us, perhaps discuss this with your friend Henri, we would be most appreciative. Thank you very much. It's wonderful talking with you as always.
Whoppy will just raise to Henri and go like, do you know anything about this?
Henri, every night you've been having the same dream. You've been having it since Little Oakbrine, in fact, since your strange mushroom drug trip. Every night when you go to sleep, you wake up back in the Oakbrine village, or so you think, but everything's different. You step out and immediately find yourself in the forest where you first met the troll, but rather than the troll in the nest, there's a wolf with 3 cubs. And then you look up and see the farmhouse, but it's not the farmhouse you remember being there. And sitting in the front stoop on rocking chairs, there is some other farmer that you don't recognize, and the Moon King. They're sharing a cigar, passing it back and forth. The farmer blows a smoke ring. The Moon King blows a smoke tesseract. The farmer one-ups the Moon King by blowing a smoke ring and a smaller smoke ring through it. The Moon King blows a portal through which the entire universe is made of smoke. And then, stepping through them, or through the doorway into the farmhouse, you hear the cries of a baby before you find yourself not in the farmhouse, but in the middle of the Celebran marketplace. Only you're not in it, you're above it, flying in the sky, where there are 4 giant pillars, one of gold, one of steam, one of lightning, and one of radiant light, all pouring down into the marketplace, in the middle of which there is a doll made of wood, growing branches like a tree, and as you fall into the doll, you wake up before you hit the ground. You've had this dream every night.
Yeah, so when Wampy approaches Henri, he looks kind of exhausted. Hasn't been sleeping very well, and he confides in Wampy that he's not exactly sure what they're talking about, but he has been having this same dream ever since, the mushroom trip at Little Oakbrine. I'm not sure if Wampy went through that experience.
Wampy was the reason that one of the reasons that we went through that experience.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Henri kind of tries to recount the dream, but it's very haphazard, when you try and remember a dream and tell it to someone, it's
You sound insane.
yeah.
Or you sound like that little kid who's trying to do a monologue from Hercules.
Oh my god, yes.
When oh yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, and then Henri, while he's telling you all of this, has just a look of terror, because he's just kind of not sure, why he's being haunted like this. He kind of sees it as he's being haunted right now by these visions.
Wampy is going to write a letter back to the Druidess, requesting help in untangling a Moon King related dream for Henri. Explaining how, stuff with nature is complicated. It took many hours of meditation for me to even unlock my own skills. Some assistance from either you or one of your colleagues would be appreciated. Because Wampy is not a moon druid, does not understand necessarily that.
Yeah, and I think I'll add, I'm pretty sure we might be going this route, but when Henri had the mushroom trip, he saw a vision of the Moon King and had a conversation, like an eldritch encounter with him. And I think we're going the route of he made a promise to the Moon King but doesn't really know what that was.
All right.
So Henri will tell Wampy that as well. Basically, I had that vision or I had that encounter. I think I promised something to the Moon King, but I can't really remember what it was. And now I've been plagued by these dreams.
Yeah, Wampy will include that and say that Wampy, being a druid, not direct of the Moon King, is inadequate to decipher these dreams and assist Andre in the process. It would request the help of a druid of the Moon King for Andre's.
By the next morning, there's a letter of reply that says, "At your convenience, please visit us on the moon. You may gain access by speaking with the bard that acts as an adjunct professor at the university. He knows how to get to us. There is no need to trouble Violithan with requesting access to the Moon Gate over this matter." And we're going to leave it at that. Investigating Henri's dream is now one of your adventuring opportunities, along with investigating the Nantar Trade and Agriculture Corporation. And that's where we're going to leave it. Good job, everyone.
Nice work. I can't believe we wrapped up the trial like that. That was awesome.
That was a clutch, just argument battle by Reggie right there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Does Reggie have potential in civic stuff yet?
Nope.
Wow. Okay, that was just straight skill plus aptitude.
Yep.
Also, those dice were just...
yeah, and the dice loved you.
But the dice were just high. They're 0, 9, 9, 9, 8, 7.
I mean, if I had one pip, I would have had it.
And by all rights, you should have, but that was still sufficient. So I was allowing the evidence presented as pips for that. But yeah, that's how you win.
Just good argument. You had a very good argument.
You did. And then you rolled well.
And all that prior work of basically embarrassing the prosecution.
Yeah. And there was also, an entire 2 sessions, the prosecution rolling poorly, the defense rolling well, or at least moderately well. The crushing testimony in that one assertion, which included your gathering of the mercenaries, the gathering of the just evidence in general, and the presentation of the evidence in an emotional way, which was a very good tactic. So a lot of good decisions were made that led up to that. Interesting that it ended outside the court. That's not how I had planned it, but that's what happened. So it's canon now.
And we saved Lowenthal from going to prison.
You did, and that was the surprise, is you weren't even fighting for Lorpin, you were fighting for Lowenthal. But yeah, you saved it all. That was going to be the moment where the brother and sister had a disagreement and the sister left, but now I'll come up with something else for her. We'll find some other reason why she leaves the Crimson Guard. because she's going to be my next character when we go Ed's campaign.
Yeah, potentially the breaking down of some like stuff that's happening in the Crimson Guard, because several of their officers are currently going to trial.
Yes. Yeah. You guys didn't investigate that part, which is okay. You didn't really need to. But the end result is that after the accusations, the person you accused immediately went to their like locker to try and figure out stuff. Found the note, the forgery. Panicked, tried to get rid of it. Got caught trying to get rid of it, and now they're under investigation. And that's going to be a wild one right there. But you guys don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this like legal system as a thing to have in Celebre going forward?
I mean, as characters or as people?
As players.
I think it's pretty cool.
It is a little long, is the only thing. But again, a trial kind of is long. Most trials are multiple days.
Yeah, I didn't want to stray too far from reality, but I did want it to have lots of opportunities to be weird and have like grand arguments that could sway the case. And I wanted it to resemble a little bit like a kind of a Magic the Gathering kind of thing, where you keep playing cards that counter cards, and it builds, the stack builds up and up, and then at the end you got to go, okay, let's resolve this. And you go back down and you're like, so this countered that, and this countered that, and this countered that, until you get to the bottom and figure out which side won. That was my sort of model for designing it. Okay, it went long. That's good feedback. Maybe in the future then we could shorten the actual like dice rolls and speeches for the individual arguments.
I think there's also not necessarily the trial, but there is the preparation for the trial. I don't know if that's what you meant with.
No, I actually meant just the straight trial, because it's really a 3-session trial that we shortened to 2 because of how well we crushed it in the first 2 days, the first 2 segments.
I mean, it's fundamentally a battle, right? It's just a long battle.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was a 4-session trial because the two days of prep before it.
Well, yeah, but I'm not so sure the prep counts because we had the option to not partake in the prep.
I mean, yeah, not partaking in the prep would have definitely led to a very different result. You guys leaned really heavily on the pips and dice that you got from all your good pieces of evidence. Also, you found out what was really going on. Like, this would have been kind of a different situation if you guys just thought Lorpin's accused of blowing something up.
I mean, if it wasn't for Elros, was it? Who illusioned themselves on fire, we never actually figured that out.
Yeah, you started off thinking Lorpin was innocent. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, that was crazy. The reveal for that.
Yeah, I didn't know that pulling a prank on someone would accidentally cause.
Imagine if we didn't see that, but we admitted it to the court, and then it got revealed at the trial.
Whoops.
That was always the possibility, right? We said that they have the same resources we do when it comes down to it.
Yeah, if their investigation had turned up, and their investigation, so what I was planning, if you guys didn't come up with that evidence, there was also evidence of, they were going to take Lorpin's sword into custody and do some forensics on the sword versus the skeleton, and show that the marks on the skeleton had the same striation patterns in the parts of the ribs that were stabbed that the sword had, stuff like that. But it didn't matter because you guys got video evidence through divination, so actual physical forensics just became irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah. I think my favorite part was all he did was cause chaos, and somehow that like caused like the biggest effects.
All right, well, it's canon now. This is how Celebrant's courts operate, and I hope that is sufficiently chaotic and interesting that maybe it makes appearances in the future.
Yeah, that's fun. This and the other trial that we've had before.
Well, the other one was a civic trial, not a criminal one. But it should take a similar framework, but it's less. For one thing, the civic trials, they only have one magistrate, and it's not actually a magistrate, it is a judge. They're paid. So all the parties involved agree on a judge and pay the judge, and they, receive their payment for the service. They're basically, it's an arbitration.
But it followed the same. I do remember the stack.
Yes, it follows the same
humongous.
stack principle of everybody submits their assertions, and then we just go through them and figure out at the bottom if the original issue is still an issue or if it's been annihilated by the previous things that have been said. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually forgot. So technically, this is the third trial that we've had.
The third?
Yes, the Planescapes also had a giant trial in it.
Oh, yeah. I was really just counting Celebrant trials, because Planescapes is its own set of madness. That was a Sly and I trial.
It's always a Sly and I trial.
Is it really a trial if Sly and I is a lawyer involved?
I mean, even if he's not involved, he might just show up. Who knows?
Gorm just pulls off his mask and he's Sly and I this whole time.
I'm happy that Gorm got a chance to show that he's not just a pile of muscles with a bow.
Yeah, I'm happy.
He is actually a sheriff. Like it's. Yeah.
He could definitely parlay this into a long legal career in Celebre.
He could, yeah, and that's a good option for him because this was very high profile. He came out on top. He needs to do a little bit of book reading to get himself up to speed on like previous trials and things. So at no point did he call upon any results of previous trials with similar cases as part of his evidence. That was a thing that was available to be done, but but he didn't know enough to do that, and no one really rolled high enough to find those bits, so it didn't really matter. But he should definitely do that as a character before proceeding with his career.
Is that called precedence?
Precedence, yeah. Yes. In this case, it might have a similar thing, but so in U.S. law, precedents are a really big deal. In Celebre, a precedent basically is if you're arguing for an assertion that somebody's already argued, you're permitted to present their arguments and show that their assertion was accepted. If our arguments are similar enough to theirs and our situation is similar enough to theirs, then you should accept our assertion as well as theirs. It's not an automatic thing. It's just hey guys, here's a shortcut. Just rule the same as these other guys if you agree. But,
yeah, it's basically common law, which is how most of the world works these days.
All right, well, I need to get to bed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good job, everyone.
Yeah, great job. Have a great night. And next week we have whole new adventures to choose from. And I have marked on the adventure sheet which one will begin the process of ending the story. So you guys can avoid that for as long as you want to do the other things. Or dive in if you're ready to cap off this adventure and move on to the next one.
I've kind of been between two minds because in some ways my characters don't feel right, in other ways they do feel ready to go out into the world.
Yeah, I guess it's more like we need to find out potentially what the next adventure is, so we can sort of like if we want to like do how many more we want to do, we know exactly when we can like initiate the battle scene.
Yeah, but also if you keep throwing interesting side quests at us, how are we supposed to do the main quest?
Yeah.
It's not fair. It's like I want to finish the game, but also like, where did that person get that animal from? Or just stupid side quests that just like I have to know. Like I have to go do that real quick.
I have to know about Miss Mabel's dating life. Absolutely.
We've been putting that off for so long.
Yeah.
There's always something that feels more like time pressure.
There's some stuff that plays at the credits, right? Like the side quests you missed, and they just like play in the credits, and we like just like, okay, you missed this, but like this is what happened. There's those, but there's the other ones where you're like, well, no, I need to be a part of that. Like, I need to be someone who made that happen. Like I can't just hear about what they did.
Well, the options will be yours. All right, shutting down the recording.